Welcome back to the Course Creation Incubator. Gina Onativia here, and I'm going to be your course coach for the next 10 minutes or so. I hope you're ready and revved up because today I'm talking about course fat. Now, that might not be exactly PC, and I'm sorry if it isn't. That's just the New Yorker in me. We tell it like it is. And if you have an online course that is way too much, you've got modules and modules, lessons upon lessons, you have what I call a bloated course. And as course creators and as experts in your field, you want to do it all. You want to explain it all, and you might just want to get into the weeds. Sometimes that backfires. So today, you and I are going to talk about what it means to trim your course fat. And I'm talking to you, Mr. 10 modules and counting, or you, Miss, I have 12 lessons in my second module. And if this is you, you're not alone. And by the way, this doesn't just pertain to online courses. I see it in shows, movies, other content, where I think, okay, we probably could have taken 30 minutes out of here. And the best content, a course, a show, movie, book, whatever, is one that keeps it tight and purposeful. Expanse is one of our favorite shows right now. It's a sci-fi show on Prime Video about Earthers, Martians, and what they call Belters at odds. This is a show that got us through the early weeks of Sheltered in Place because it's so freaking good. And the writing is very, very tight. They only do scenes that are absolutely necessary to advance the characters or advance where the plot is actually going. And they have a ton of great characters to work with. It's excellent, edge-of-your-seat entertainment. And although some of our courses may not be like a blockbuster show, you can still arrange your content to be just as compelling, where you're not wasting a single idea or word with your teaching. Now, this idea of course fat or bloated courses came to me a few years ago when I was talking to a woman named Tosin. She's a creator who was building a course for budding fashion designers who wanted to learn how to sew and make their own clothes. So I'm talking to Tosin about her course, and she was saying, I've got 12 modules. I'm thinking 12 modules, holy heck. She knew she had too many, and on top of that, her avatar was moms, oftentimes young moms. And she knew moms didn't have time to digest all of that information. So here she was stuck on these 12 modules. She didn't know how to move forward as a course creator, and I ended up telling her a lot of what I'm about to share with you today. By the way, if you're feeling stuck, and maybe it's not just because you have too many modules, but you're stalled for whatever reason with your course creation, take my new quiz to figure out your personal roadblock to getting your course done. Whatever your obstacle, I've got detailed results and insights to share with you to help you build momentum. Go to coursecreationboutique.com/quiz or check out the show notes. Back to the fat. Course fat, that is. As a course creator, you want to trim that fat or else you risk a few things. First and foremost, you risk losing your students because they will be overwhelmed. You will drown them in information and they will stop consuming your course. They will. They'll stop in their tracks and they'll move on because they feel overwhelmed and confused. A second thing that you risk is you drive yourself bonkers. I've seen way too many course creators give up on their courses like Tosin was about to do, right? Because they have so much work to do. You make it so much harder to work on your training when you have so much course fat. And it's tough being an overachiever because you want to overachieve and give your audience everything. And lastly, you risk that your market becomes scattered because you've got so much to share versus being streamlined, and that's a no-no. I had a mastermind member I worked with a few years ago who cut back some of her course content, and her sales went up exponentially. So this isn't just about student experience, this is about sales as well. Now, before we get into what you should do with a bloated course, here are 3 questions to ask you to help you trim some of that course fat. Number 1, are you going too deep? A lot of times I'll be working with course clients and they've got some real advanced content in there. And I say, this to me is a 201 or a 301. It's too advanced. And I get pushback on this, right? Gina, it's too simple then if we go that way. And I say, it might be simple to you, but that's because you have a black belt in this content. You are the master, the sensei. You need to teach them the foundational elements. They're starting with a white belt. They're starting from scratch. You've got to start with elements that they don't even know about, so you got to keep it simple. If you're going too deep, look at your content, trim back where you're going too advanced, and save it for another course. It becomes another course or mini course down the line, or a more advanced course where you're taking a deeper dive into the topic. So that's question number 1. Are you going too deep? Question number 2, are you too in love with your own content? And hey, I get it. I love my own content, right? I don't want to trim it back because it's mine. It might feel kind of perfect as it is. I've developed it. I worked hard on it. But sometimes when you fall in love with your own content, you can't see past the trees, right? So I've had clients say, oh, well, I developed this triad of progress. I just made that up. And it needs to be in the course. But let me ask you honestly, does it really need to be in the program? Does your student truly need that piece? Or is it because you fell in love with it and you want to teach it? Now, if that's the case, I'm not saying it's not valuable. Perhaps you can use it for something else. If they don't need it and it's not part of their transformation and it's not part of your promise, then maybe use it for teaser content or as a bonus or save it for another course. Don't fall too much in love with your own stuff because then you're not willing to let it go. So that's question number 2. Then finally, number 3, is your promise too broad? Because when your promise is too broad for your student, that's when you get in trouble with your course content and you're trying to stuff a lot of things into one course. I had a coaching client who was creating a financial course, and the challenge with him was his course had way too big of a promise. He was trying to figure out how to teach people to become investors. Now, that's a big promise. There's a lot that can obviously go into becoming an investor, especially when you're starting out. But once he narrowed it down to, I'm going to teach you how to create your first investment portfolio, the beginning stages of it, he was able to streamline his content and trim the course fat. Creating the course became a lot more doable. So think about it. Is your promise too broad? Are you trying to give them the world? That's where course fat happens. And can you narrow in on that promise so you can trim some of the course fat? Let me give you one last example of this. I had a course creator come up to me at an event asking me to review her outline about applying to physical therapy schools. Whew, boy, what an outline. You could have built 3 courses out of this bad boy. Think about your own transformation and how you might need to dial it back so you don't dive in so deep. So those questions again. 1, are you going too deep? 2, are you too in love with your own content? Then 3, is your promise too big? If you answer these questions, I promise you, you're going to trim down on that course fat and not overwhelm your students or overwhelm your marketing. Okay, time for some solutions and 3 ways to reduce the fat, some of which I've already kind of hinted at, but let's take a deeper dive. 1, break your signature course into a foundational course with separate deeper dives. For example, what if you broke up your signature course into a foundational program, then added a bunch of deeper focus courses that you can upsell to? I had a course creator who had a signature course around content, then realized that she could break them up into really focused courses, what I like to call them, and she ended up splintering their courses and selling one at a time. I love this strategy. If you guys have been listening to me, you know that sometimes I feel like a signature course is too hard to tackle, especially if you're not getting help with it, and it's great to start with a smaller course, a focus course. Now, if you feel like you're serving different micro audiences within one course, this is a great idea for you, especially if you can pinpoint the content that is truly foundational. Then take out that extra or more detailed parts of the course, create deeper dives that are tailored to specific age groups, demographics, etc. Another way to trim the fat is you can use your extra content as bonuses. I was looking at this course the other day on being an upscale photographer. It was a wonderful course, loved her outline. There was so much value in it. And then she admitted that one piece kind of didn't flow. It didn't fit. But her ideal student was asking for it during her validation calls. So she felt like she needed to put it in the course. But again, it doesn't fit. We ended up using it to make an incredible bonus that I bet will attract a lot of people to the program because she knows they want it, right? It came up in those calls with her potential students. I find this happens a lot with extra course content, that it's great stuff, it's great content, but not really fat that can be thoughtfully reproduced. And by the way, if it doesn't work as a paid bonus inside of your course, use it as an awesome lead magnet, if that makes sense, to attract potential students, or a free series to lead up to the course. Okay, third way to cut down a bloated course is to break up your course into a membership site. Now, going back to Tosin, who had 12 modules, she could take that content, break it up into 12 months, and release it to those moms as a subscription. Now, I think membership sites are awesome. I love that you get paid every month, but you also have to work and have the discipline to put out information and plan ahead. So if you have more than enough content and that's what your audience is asking for, those regular touch points every month, a membership site may be a really great idea for you. One final thought on this. You may struggle to trim your own fat. Ask for help. Hire an editor or writer to work through your course and see what you can tighten up. Sometimes it takes that outside perspective. Okay, I think we have talked enough about course fat. You know what to do. Next week, I'm bringing on a special guest to help you become a better email writer. My friend and collaborator, Megan O'Leary, who has worked with some of the best in the business, Grant Cardone, Ryan Levesque, Bo Eason, Frank Kern, Tony Robbins. Megan's written for them all. And my accelerator students know all about Megan and how absolutely brilliant she is. And lately, Megan and I have been talking a ton about how to become a better writer, especially with emails. And we're going to share the process I've been going through for better open and click-through rates for my nurture emails. And by the way, if you have any questions about anything I mentioned in this episode, or how to put your quiz results that I mentioned earlier into real action, send me a DM on Instagram at Course Creation Boutique and we can chat. Please make sure you like, subscribe, rate, and review Course Creation Incubator wherever you listen, and come back next Wednesday so you don't miss one course creation tip and so we can workshop your nurture emails together. Okay, until then, go create, be you and be brilliant, and get it done.